Okay, so we're back together. We women had a sweet prayer time. How are you guys doing in there?
Good.
Talking about the warriors.
Talking about the warriors.
Yes, it is.
I thought there was a little too much noise and cheering. I said, I bet they talked a lot and didn't pray. It's all right. God loves you. Okay. Well, that was good. That was good. So let's move into. Would somebody watch the clock for me? I do not have my little phone for a timer. 11:17. Okay, so let me know when it's like 10 to 12. Okay. All right. So let's talk about stuff. What's going on at home? What issues do you want to talk about and bring up? I have an example for you about a redo. I'll start us off this way. Here's a way to perfect your redo. So, a situation with a dad and a child. So the dad is saying, "Time to go," and the dad was totally caught off guard. The child just went, "Great time, I don't want to go." And thinking quickly, and he's thinking, okay, we're going to do a redo. So said, "Honey, this is not okay, and you need to just go sit over here a little bit until you get yourself under control, and then we'll come back and I'll help you do this right." I don't know if he used that word, "help you do this right," but we'll do this again maybe. The better wording would have been, I'll help you do this successfully. Right? Remember, you're always trying to use the wording that says, I'm here to help you do it successfully. I'm not here to enforce you doing what I want you to do. This is what I know you really want to do because you're made for righteousness, right? And you're not going to be happy unless you do it right. So I'm here to help you do it well, right? So anyway, and so the little girl kind of calmed down a little bit, still a little sniffy, kind of whatever, but came out, and the dad said, "Okay, I'll help you put these toys away." So, okay for about 30 seconds, and then began the sort of snivelly, crying stuff, oh, go, right? So, "Honey, you need to go calm down. We'll try this again." So, the little girl went out, and then the dad, she was still kind of snuffy, but he said, "Okay, come on, let's try this again." So the second time through, she was just sort of snivelly the whole way through, and then they got the things put away while she was still sort of snivelly, and the dad was staying very cheerful. I mean, there were lots of really good things going on in this encounter, right? I mean, the dad, not cheerful, but pleasant, right? Appropriately cheerful, and warm and pleasant, but the little girl was still kind of crying and more quietly and under control, and then the dad took her hand and walked away and left. Talk to me about that. What I want to tell you is that your whole life as a parent, you're going to be thinking through. I do this with my grandkids all the time. What did I do right there? What did I do wrong there? Right? You're always going to be doing it. There's no such thing as failure. There's just things as, well, I lost that principle, or I got caught up in this, or whatever. And so now it's a learning experience. Now you're better off, right? So that's all we're doing here. So talk to me about that. What went wrong? We saw lots of good things. The dad did the redo, right? Could have been better in the wording, right? And the second, when she didn't cooperate with the first redo, he stopped it, tried again. Could have been better in the wording, but then the little girl comes back. He's staying really bright-faced and calm and good to be me here with you. So we got check, all these good things. What made it not a good redo? Because it wasn't a good redo. It was not effective. And if that continues to happen, if that kind of redo continues to happen, that tool would be absolutely useless to that parent. Why?
Well, I mean, it didn't look like, I mean, sure she was in a way being more submissive, but I mean, if she was still like sobbing the whole time, it didn't seem like her heart was in it.
You nailed it.
As far as
All
that's
right.
concerned.
So the point of the redo is to give the child the opportunity for a change of inward being, a change of choice, and an exercise of godly self-control. Choose righteousness, right? You're not using these words with your children, but that's what it's all about. So, when the child went in the other room, excellent, stopped crying, excellent, came out and managed really godly self-control for about 30, 45 seconds.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good. You know, I mean, she actually said some very pleasant words, a little bit of laughter in there, whatever. And then it hit her again. She got gripped around her little throat with, I don't want to leave, right? See, so she now, her little soul, she rose above and then got sucked back under the water, right, in her little soul. So, that's okay. You're going, okay, you started out good, but let's get yourself together, right? So she goes in the other room again. First thing was, she needed to be really settled down. There's always a little bit of a rush in parenting, and if you're going to be doing the redo, you cannot have a time factor involved. You've got to die to self and not have a time factor. In other words, you're going to be with this, whether you have friends who are irritated at you waiting in the car, they can just wait. On a scale from 1 to 10, it's not eternal that they're a little bit late, right? But your child is. So you're going to have to really suck it up and say, this is the priority. You can't be in a rush. So there was a little bit of the rush factor. We need to get out the door. We need to leave, right? So that got this father compromising what he knew better about. So the child needed more time to have more distance between their emotion and their settling down, right? So more time. Then when the child came out, there has to be a change of inner state. There has to be a change of inner being. You didn't give the child a success experience. That's why it was not a positive thing. And if the redo does not accomplish that change of state, then it's counterproductive. And you lose the tool, because if you don't require in your own soul that we're going to walk this through in such a way that there's a change of state where this child can do this successfully, which is with a good attitude and smoothly, and cooperatively, with a change of heart, and then exits the scene. If anything less than that happens, you have really lost your tool. And if you let that happen wrong more than 1 or 2 times, you better just throw that tool out the window, because the child is conditioned to not change their state.
I have a question then. What if you do actually have a real time factor? Like, for example, I'm thinking about this. Like, I have a child in school, and so one of the times is in the morning before we have to be at school. I can't take my daughter late to school because my 3-year-old's having a fit. Like,
I wouldn't do it.
Is it appropriate to, I mean, I've had to do it before where it's like I take the screaming child and put him in the stroller, explain to him, Sissy has to be at school. So we're gonna go and we'll take care of this when we get home. Is that appropriate then to come back and give time?
Yes.
For everything? Okay.
Okay, that's exactly right. So, exactly. So what you're going to do is, you have situations, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, right? But when in that situation, you're not going to try and do a redo then. Like, okay, turn off your crying and hop in the car with a good attitude. Give it up. I mean, just, you've got 2 minutes to get it done. You're just going to get angry. The child's going to resist. All of that would be really bad. I mean, it would just set bad. So you're just going to say calmly, no anger, exactly what you said. Child goes in the car seat, may cry all the way to car, whatever, just make it through, right? And you're going to get home and you're not going to say anything. The child's going to settle down sometime later, before lunch or whatever. You're going to be just kind of going, oh, I was thinking about when Sissy went off to school. Oh, that was not good for you, huh? That was not good. Yeah. So I'm going to help you. I know I can help you to do that better. So let's practice. or I don't even like using the word practice because it's not a great word to use, so scratch practice. But let me help you so that you can do that successfully. I like that word successful. I like that word too. So then you're going to go back and you're just going to role play it out. And you're going to, let's pretend, that we're getting out the door and this is what's going to happen. You're going to be doing this and you're going to take him back to the exact same place where he threw his little hissy fit. So it's not in another room. It's right where he did it, right? So all those associations are there. And you're going to say what you said and you're going to prime him to say this is what he's going to say. And you go, we can do this, right? And then you're going to act it out and you're just going to go, exactly right. So that's what we'll do tomorrow, right? You can do that successfully. So proud of you. Okay?
So this goes along with it. Sorry. What if you have a child who gets very confused by the pre-training and all that? So our son, for example, he'll be, we'll get to it, even not even being upset, we're just pre-training for another situation. And we're doing it, we're playful, but I'll prompt and he just gets confused by it and is so for one example, we've been having some problems recently where he wakes up in the middle of the night and he has to pee, but instead of getting out of bed to go to the bathroom, he screams bloody murder because he doesn't want to get out of bed, So it's the other day I was like, okay, we're gonna work on this, and he's like, but it's not bedtime. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go pee. And he was just confused. I was like, okay, well, I'll pretend this is me. I want to go do this, and he thinks it's fun. And then I'm like, okay, now you're gonna say this, and I said, okay, Daniel, do you have to go potty? No. Or, oh, I've got to go potty, and then and he just looks at me. So are there other ideas because there are times he gets frustrated, because he's getting so confused, and a lot of times I'll just scrap it. But then there's other times I'm getting frustrated because I'm like, come on, buddy, practice this stuff.
So he's really at a very literal stage in his life.
He is very literal.
Yeah, and may have that sort of tendency, personality.
He had a hard time with pantry the other day because he wondered why it was a tree. Why it's not a tree.
There you go.
He's very literal.
Yeah,
it's not a tree.
So probably with the role plays, unless they're really close to the situation. So it's lunch and it's 5 minutes before lunch and you're pre-training for what's going to happen at lunch. And then it really is lunchtime. It really is relevant. It's going to happen now. He's right in a tight time frame. I would do that. And then secondly, in terms of, I would get him into as much as you can, and he may or may not be ready for this, but have him just be experiencing imaginative play. I don't know if he likes to play imaginative play with his little people or his little farm animals or something like that. And then once he gets into imaginative play, that gets to be natural for him. Then you can just say, remember how you were playing with your animals and the little frog did this and the little whatever did that? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to play like that. And then he can kick out of the literalness into imaginative. But it may be a little. I keep the role plays really close to the real deal.
Okay.
Yeah. So were you saying with that example, you would play with when he's doing his imaginative play, oh, I gotta go pee pee, and then
No, because he's not ready for that.
Yeah.
He's not ready for that.
Because he's in the mindset that he was.
So just any level of imaginative play. So he's got airplanes and he's going vroom and in for the landing. Any kind of imaginative play at all, highly encouraged for children who are the real literalists. And and the way you encourage it is just participating or just instigating a little bit. You're playing with them in some way, and then you start going, this guy's going to jump on this guy, and I'm going to fight, and just play your little imaginative games, a little bit here, 5 seconds, 10 seconds here, something like that, and just see if his little brain and his soul pick up into the imaginative side of things. And then once he jump starts that, you can start extending out your pre-training thing.
I have one more question.
Go ahead. I'm first.
I've been waiting a long time. No, I'm just thinking about this idea of, you want a genuine heart change. And so, this is a typical scenario. One of them hurts the other one. And, you want them to apologize. But I just wonder how you feel about, a forced apology, because you want it to be genuine. You want them to really be sorry. So as far as pre-training and the redo, okay, let's try this again. How could you have done this differently? And, go through it. I mean, you could role play, I guess, again and say, and then you say, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I mean, but they can be good actors too, you know? Like, how do you even know if it's genuine? I mean,
Okay, so I'll just give you when you're with me, you just get my opinion, weigh it, you know, other people's opinions, right? And then you figure out what works for you. I am not a big fan of forcing children to say anything, even thank you and please, in front of other people. Now, you know, so I put the caveat. You know how I talked with you about working at the table. If a child's not saying please and thank you, that's just a rule of your family, and so it's just that, you know, the rule's in place. It's like you didn't don't say thank you. Go, oh, I'll be done. Dinner's all over. We'll try again tomorrow. That's it. Smile face. You know, that's it. So that's you're not telling. But there's a difference between that and having a child have to say thank you to somebody over a birthday present. Or, I mean, the pre-training, for example, at their birthday parties, right? I mean, the pre-training of this is what you do. Let's pretend you're going to open this box, and then you're going to figure out who's it from, and then you're going to look them in the face, and then we're going to say, thank you for my what? You know, thank you for the airplane, right? And you, a couple of weeks before their birthday party, right? You've got them there. If they do it at the birthday party, great. If they don't, you would not turn. Children are born persons. You know, Pauline, you would not turn to John in the middle of a group like this and say, John, say thank you. You know, you wouldn't. It's disrespectful. It's demeaning. So you don't talk to your children the way you wouldn't talk to any other human being. I mean, it's, you know, it's not right. And it sets a very bad precedence, and they feel like, what am I, you know, am I on display here? Am I supposed to be? It's just not right. So I don't think. So the same way with children who have hurt another child, and then to stand with another child present, the other child, sibling or not, or friend or whatever, right? Another kid, another mother there, anybody else there besides that child, and say, you need to say sorry for what you did. Now that was very hurtful. You know, you could have really, really hurt him. Good thing you only sort of hurt him, right? So, and you go, now say you're sorry, right? And the kid's going, no. Sorry. Kind of thing. I go, so what was good about that?
you're teaching them to lie, right? I mean,
Well,
it's not really sorry.
there's a bunch of things wrong with it. Number one, yes, it's not coming from their heart. But two, you would not do that with another human being. You know, why are you doing that with a child? So if when children are hurting each other, we can get a scenario going, and I can explain to you how you just have that stop happening, right? But the process of what a child is going to say in response to I did something wrong, there's two facets of that. One is love is an action, it's not a feeling. So there is a point at which it's not lying, it's just doing the right thing to say sorry when you hurt someone. Now, so there's two sides of that. I don't want to go to the point where I have a child thinking I'll say anything just to end this awkward scenario. Right? Sorry. Okay, done with. Can I play with my toys now? Right? Kind of thing. We're not looking for that, but we're also not looking to say you don't ever have to do the right thing when you don't feel like it. Yeah. There's two sides of that, so you really have to balance that. In other words, it's not really okay to hurt someone and not say something, nice to the person. So I bridge that. I like to bridge that with children. So number one, we're going to handle the scenario so there's no more hurt, there's whatever. That's a whole different discussion. But you've got that stopped, and then the children are maybe separated out, right? And then one of the things you can do is you're going to come alongside that child who did a hurtful thing. And it might not be able to happen then if they're really irritated and stuck in their own prideful self. It says, rebuke a fool and he's going to turn on you, right? So if your child is in a foolish state, you're just going to provoke their flesh. That's not the time to talk with them about it. Do you understand why? Okay, I mean, that's just a scriptural thing there. So when you sense there's been some distance, the pride has gone or whatever's right. And you go, remember when that happened? You know what be really, really good things when you do something like that. If I know you're angry, you get to hear a child, you go, you know what's going on there? You were angry, they took something. Oh yeah, that would make me angry too maybe. But I know it's not okay, right, to hit out, and you can help a child think through what else could you have done. And they're gonna go, I can come and say, Mom, they took my stuff. No, that's not a good one. Let's think of something else. You can handle that so you don't encourage the tattling kind of thing, although there's intervention sometimes. But with the child just going, you hurt, especially inside your family, where you're still all there. It's sometimes when you realize what you did and you're distant from it, you can go, that wasn't right. Do you think that was right? Nah, I don't think that was right, Mom.
Right.
Okay. So, well, you know what? Let's figure out a way. You can say you're sorry. You can go now and say you're sorry. But then, why don't you think of something that would be really fun? What's something we could do for your little brother Johnny, right? Like, what do you think he would really like? Sometimes it's just nice to say, I really do love you, and I'm sorry that I punched you, or I'm sorry that I took your something. And then they just think, what do you think he'd like? Well, he likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Okay, well, let's go make him some peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'll get it out for you. You make it. And then when he comes in from playing, you can say, hey, Johnny, I made you peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? So in other words, you teach and model kindness and gentleness and thoughtfulness and forgiveness, right? And you're doing it bit by bit, not the hammer coming down and saying, turn to him and say, you're sorry. That was just a nasty little thing you did. Now you say you're sorry.
Right.
That accomplishes nothing except your flesh feels better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to add a little bit about that piece of it. So right now Amber and I are focusing on orderliness
Mm-hmm.
and cleanliness, for example. So if say you do modeling, right, you're supposed to, this is how you put away your toys after you played with them, like where you put your books, your dolls, etc. But then after 3 days, you don't see it. Like I guess for me, I'm a little OCD, so when I come in and I see like library books strewn all over the floor, like invitations that were drawn up and all over the floor, like all these papers, the construction paper after work. It's like, for me, it's like, well, everything has to be either orderly by the time I come home or by the time we go to bed. So after 3 days, it doesn't happen. Is it okay to have make natural consequences? Like, for example, I took out a paper bag and I said, all right, this is the third day. I'm gonna start tossing everything that's on the floor. So I'm tossing this. Like, go ahead. And then I brought the Cinderella, and then I moved on. I said, no, don't take that. She'll come over and just take those out and put it back where it belongs. But then, like, is that okay? Like, if I'm gonna follow through, say, if you're not gonna clean up, I'm gonna start tossing. Like, you know what I mean? That's.
Yeah, I think that the ordering of a child's time and life, the idea of having things put away periodically during the day.
Yeah.
Number one, we're talking about children have way too much stuff, and it's just beyond them to manage it.
Right.
I mean, it's like a manager. You give them somebody in management in business, and you've given them way too much. It's all going to disintegrate and fall apart. Nothing is going to be managed well. So if your children have too much stuff, and a little bit of stuff is okay, get the rest of it boxed up, bring it in and rotate, but don't leave it all there. You are asking too much of the little child's soul to order that much stuff, right? If it's overwhelming for you, think of this little child, right? So that's one thing. Clean out your stuff and have only a few things available to get taken care of.
Okay.
And I highly recommend not just having bins that you throw things in. That doesn't teach a child an orderly soul. So we had, what I did was, 4 boys, oh my goodness, and relatives that give everything, and parents who buy everything. We didn't know about the not so much stuff. So we have tons of stuff, right? But then you're always going, we've got this toy, and here's the frame, and where are the animals, and where are the people, and where's the little hookup thing? You're going, total piece of junk that sits in your house for a year that no one uses because none of the parts are there, right? I thought, this is ridiculous, right? So we went in the kids' closets, and I had my husband put up little wooden slats that had hooks, like little coat hooks,
Yeah.
right, coming out of them, like rows of them, right? So the highest one could be up here, right? And then I just sewed up, me who does not sew, but I sewed up little bags with zip, you know, with, not with so little string ties, you know, like that. And I just wrote on cloth what was in that bag. So these are all the city people. These are all the farm animals.
Yeah.
These are, you know, the whatever to go with this. And some of them were big bags and some of them were little bags and whatever. And then they hung the big bags on the bottom rack and the smaller as they went, the teeny ones up at the top, right? So when they went to put things away, they literally matched all their little alphabet blocks. And they all these went in this bag and all those went in that bag. And then they hung, right? And then they, in the back of their closet and underneath their higher clothes that you're handling, right?
Yeah.
And so any orderly things like that. But just having bins where kids go, okay, clean up. I mean, what does that do? It cleans up your house, and now you can vacuum, but you know, in terms of your higher goal of an ordered soul and an ordered mind, that doesn't work. So thinking creatively about what you actually want to accomplish. But now, so that handles the stuff. Now let's say the stuff that you have and there's the papers and things are staying around. Having some routine where children know that there is, we're going to put these away before you take out the next thing. That's just their habit. The next thing doesn't come out until it's put away. Except that oftentimes certain activities blend together. It's like, oh, I'm making all these cutout things because it's going to be used with this dollhouse or this whatever, right? So then you need all those things out. That's okay. That's exactly what you want them to do. You want them to be highly creative that way. And I had a friend of mine who just said, there's nothing creative that happens in this house. It's too clean.
Oh.
Yeah. She said, when I walk into a clean house, I go, these are boring, uncreative people. I'm not boring. I just cleaned for you. No. You should have seen my house yesterday. It was real. It was so creative. But that sense then of when that's done, when that game, they don't just like skip off and run out and play. It's like, oops. And that's when your egg timers come in going, do this so fast, right? Sometimes you're going to go, let's get this egg timer out. We're going to do this in 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it is. We can do this, and you sort that, and I'll sort that, and high five, and we get that all cleaned up. Look at this, beautiful room here, right? And then they move on. But that's something you're going to have to do. You just stay on with joy, not with punishment. So I'm not into the, I'm going to take all these things away if you don't do it right. I go, if you've gotten to the point where you need to take them away, you've done something wrong. It's your problem. It's not a kid's problem. You haven't helped them order their souls. And so back it up and then figure out what's your plan so that you don't ever have to get to the desperate point of going, I'm going to take all these. Because you're driving me crazy. Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
On the scenario you had before where you're saying that after a couple of times you're going to lose the tool, and let's say you're on the second time, and you're really wanting them, you're rooting for them to succeed through it, but it's just not happening, so then you're going to abandon that, right, and go to something else, which is what you would kind of bring on the punishment, or the kind of like, okay, we're not doing this, and you're not, kind of responding in the right way, so we're going to take a time out or do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then it feels like, something that started out so small, such as like cleaning
Yes.
something, just went into like a totally different direction. and
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Blew up into something big.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
So is that?
So give me, I hear what you're saying. I don't want to talk theory though. I want you to give me a specific
Sure.
example because that's where we can actually make it concrete.
Okay. Let's say like.
And you can even make one
Sure.
theoretically.
Right. Let's say like teeth brushing.
Okay.
And so we're trying to get to the sink on his own volition. Hey, we're doing. It's almost time for bedtime, so we're gonna do this, and he's running around. We're like, let's try again. Yes, Isaac, it's time to brush your teeth, and and he gets there, or he's coming close, but then it's just like something else happens, and he's off and running again. So I'm like, okay, I could choose to do it again, or just stop, because after a while it gets ineffective, or gets conditioned out, right? But then I don't want to like bring the pain at that point and say,
And make a big.
So I'm trying to coax.
out of
Yeah, I'm
it.
still trying to coax it, but obviously it's not the
Yeah.
right way.
So there's discernment in here, and I think that, and there's also, again, you're not going to be legalistic. What you want to be happening as a rule is that you actually have order. Children are little. They've only been on the earth, measure it by months. Even if they're 5, just count the months, right? Just going, they've only been on the earth for a little bit of time. So life is way overwhelming. There's too much stuff, there's too much people. We've got them in preschools and they're like, I don't think we even realize the amount of stress that a child goes through with just the way we configure life for them is hugely stressful for a child. They don't tell you, I'm stressed, but they'll run around and they'll be hyperactive, or they'll be, they'll treat their toys crazy, or they'll jump on their brothers or something, and you're going, part of this is because you're just like, your little body and your soul are so overwhelmed with life, you're just out of control inside yourself, right? So that's our problem with how we order their life. So order is better than disorder, but not order that is legalistic and mean and harsh. Then you're crossing on another line there. It's just, this is the way we do life. So we prayed around our group, disciplines, right? What are the disciplines of our family? Not, these are the disciplines of our family. But they just consistently happen this way. So this is where we put our shoes when we take them off. And we don't put them anywhere else. So now, here comes Sunday. You can just get your shoes and hop in the car for church. Time to go to school. There's the shoes. Time to go out and play. There's the shoes. The shoes are always there. They're in a pair. They know how to put them for the right foot and the left foot because you taught them in a lovely, delightful way. And they put their little point of their shoes, the toes of their shoes, touch the wall, and they're there. And that's it. And you've got a place for them. Hey, life is ordered. And the child goes, I don't have to think about this. Charlotte Mason is so in favor of ordering life beautifully in such a way that it just takes, don't you like not having to think about everything all the time? Isn't it stressful for you when you're going, where did I put those papers? And where's my code? And I can't find my cell phone again. And you go, okay, a basket. Anytime you're not using the cell phone goes in the basket. You don't have to think about it anymore, and just all the tension bleeds off your life little by little like an onion, right? So we have to do that for our children. So in terms of bedtime routines, and you can't, grandma comes over, the routine goes out the window. You got Bible study that night, you got whatever, you got to get out to somebody, you're going out for dinner, that's out. But the norm needs to be a set framework for bedtime, half an hour window or something in there. And the same things in the same order get done all the time, right? So there really isn't every night. It's not right for every night to be fresh, like we're just handling, we're going to get our teeth brushed again, like this is the first time we've ever brushed our teeth, right? It needs to be, no, you've been brushing your teeth for the last 3 years. And we're no longer thinking about brushing teeth because he just knows it, right? So that's where the pre-training comes in. This is how we handle bedtime. And this is what we do, and again, delightfully, not instructor kind of thing, but the teeth, and he's got toothbrush that's accessible, he's got the toothpaste that's accessible, he's practiced how to get just a little bit and not a glob, on the toothpaste and whatever. So then every once in a while, so that just gets done naturally, and that's all going to happen before there's any books that are read or whatever, right? Now we have a child who decides, for whatever reason, maybe because our orderliness has slipped ourselves, right? Always check inward. That he's kind of wacko one night, I just extend grace. I mean, I used to take my kids sometimes and we'd have this, just a wild day. You'd be out running errands and whatever, and you go, whew, that's a lot for a kid to live that adult lifestyle at that pace or whatever. And so they're just maybe not as responsive at night. And so you kind of go brush teeth and nobody's brushing teeth, and you just come up behind a child and you go, how about we brush your teeth upside down tonight, right? And you just pick them up, hug them, their heads down on the ground, and you go, okay, brush. You're like, wait, don't spit your drooling, right? And so it's just grace, and it's fun to get them over the hurdle. We wouldn't do that every night. I wouldn't do that even really often, besides that your back hurts. But that kind of thing. But overall, it's got to be that there is this pre-training of this is what happens. So it's jammies, and we put our jammies on this way. And the dirty clothes, they go in the hamper. And the washcloth that, you know, gets used over your face, it gets hung here. And it's just always that way. Nobody has to think about it. It's time to get ready for bed. And he knows 1, 2, 3. This is what I do. Clothes off, in the hamper, jammies on, this is what I've got on, teeth brushed. Yes, time for a book.
I'm gonna comment on that.
Yeah.
Oh, so we made this like chart. I mean, since they were like 1 and 2, like we have like a chart with like pictures, and so they know this is their bedtime routine. And so, you know, it works well sometimes, but then other times I just forget about it. But then they know if you don't do these things, then okay, we're just gonna go to bed early. If you don't want to brush your teeth, okay. And then usually they'll go, no, brush my teeth, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know. So if they don't want to follow what's on the list, then okay, all right, it's time for bed now, you know.
Uh-huh.
You know, and you know, or else they'll miss story time too, because that's like the
Yeah.
big reward after they get all these things done. So like, but if they don't want to follow the routine, then they have to go to. So I don't know. I've done this so many different ways and just experimenting with it. So I don't know what the best way is, but I know that the chart has been helpful. And I mean, the goal is for them to come to me and say, "Oh, look, what's next?" You know. And so, and I mean, they know now. Therefore, they know. So if they're not following it, that's their choice. They just want to run around the house and,
Yeah.
you know, just be wild. But I don't know. I've tried approaching it different ways, but
So here's the deal. If you're going to make patterns and establish order, that doesn't happen, then it's disorder. If you're going to make a rule that you don't enforce, then it's anarchy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so know what you want to accomplish and only set out to accomplish the important things and the minimal things. So life is not really dreary to live with,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're making life just hard and a whole set of rules and whatever. No. There's certain things that happen. The before meals, right? This is, we all jump in, maybe we're gonna put on a little music or something, but this is our family work, is we set the table, and this is the child's job, and so they know when the timer goes, it's like at this time, this is when the table gets set, whatever. So life gets down to where you're not having to deal with this. What time is that?
5 till.
5 till.
till.
Okay, good. So life gets down to where you're just not having to deal with those things, so that you can enjoy yourselves together. You can do other things. But when it stays at the level where every night I'm dreading bedtime, because it's just chaos each night. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I don't know whether it's going to work or they're not going to work, and especially doesn't work on the nights that I'm tired. Clue, inward searching. What am I bringing to this experience in my fatigue, right? I might be spreading a little of this out for the children. So if you're going to have a chart, then there isn't ever an option to say we don't do the chart or don't have a chart. Because once you allow the chart not to be done, now you've totally defeated your chart. Your chart is just a part of your chaotic routine. So it either has to always be done, or better not to have the chart and just go, bedtimes are chaos in our home, I'm just going to live with that. But if I'm not going to live with that, then I need to have something that works, not something that haphazardly works once in a while. That's worse than not having something at all. Do you understand why? Because you're teaching your children, my mom can make a chart and we'll do it when we want to. And we're teaching, we're supposed to set the table, but maybe not. So all of that actually breeds anxiety inside the child. They don't know the rules. And so they always have to be thinking about, do I want to do this or not do this? Am I going to do this or not do this? That is an energy drain that's not right for parents to put on their children. Some things just need to be peacefully settled issues that always happen. So the children don't need to think about it. It breeds anxiety when a child doesn't know that this is what we do. I always, get my clothes off, into the little hamper here, the jammies go on next, I go and I brush my teeth, I go pee, and then I read the book. And Charlotte Mason talks so much about this. Nobody's thinking options here, right? Now,
So you
what you
recommend
don't
a chart
do-
or not?
I think a chart is great.
If
As
it's
long
consistent.
as you're consistent and the chart has to be done. Once you start slipping and use the chart as punishment, step 3 didn't get done, no book for you. Early to bed, early to rise, and work, and lots of chores for you tomorrow, right? I mean, when you've done that, you've lost it. You just lost it. So the chart needs to be joyfully and respectfully just expected. Expected. And there's no wiggle room and there's no unexpectation of it all. Everybody knows we don't have to think about this anymore because here's our chart. If you don't find the ability to be able to do that, best not to have a chart and just go, I don't quite know what to do, but don't have a chart that doesn't work. So,
Well, I mean, sometimes I'll use okay, they missed story time because I didn't clean up.
mhm.
So then it's like a natural consequence. Okay, you missed story time because you were fooling around and spent too much time, fooling around, and now look at the time.
Yeah.
It's time for bed.
And there are some times like that with with their natural consequences. Usually, my guess is probably your voice doesn't sound as sweet when you're saying that. It sounds really sweet here. But my guess is if I was a mom, it's like, honey, the room is such a mess. I guess you'll have to go to bed early. I doubt it. I doubt if that's the way it goes down. Right? It probably goes down in a much more. Okay, so, and I told you. So if anything that smacks of punishment is your weakest form, don't allow yourself to fall into punishment. God does not punish his children. He disciplines his children. He trains his children. He, comes alongside and empowers his children. That's the old covenant. Punishment is the old covenant. We don't have an angry, punishing God. All the punishment went on Jesus. It's out of the picture. So don't allow punishment. Natural consequences are a different thing. That's a different thing. You work with a sharp knife, you get it too close to your finger, you cut your finger out, right? That helps me figure out, I don't think I'll put my finger close to that again, right? That's a natural consequence. A lot of the times what we call natural consequences, they could be natural consequences if we would keep our mouth shut, but when we start explaining the natural consequence of, whatever the child did, and now we're explaining it to them, now we've made it a punishment. We've added our little what for in there, like, see? You explain to a child that they have to keep their training wheels on their bike for a few more weeks or something, and they get in there and take their training wheels off, and they fall, you just protect their little knee, you put a little peroxide on there going, oh, it's an ouchie or something. But if you turn around and say, I told him not to take those training wheels off, you're not, see what happened? You just almost broke your leg, you crashed into the car or something, right? I mean, now you've turned it into a punishment. Natural consequence totally lost the beauty of itself, and you've turned a natural consequence into a punishment. Beware. It's 12 o'clock. So my family leaves in the next few days, and so visiting family, so we'll be back on calls. We do that. I wanted to ask you one thing real quickly. One of my board members suggested this idea of the calls. She said, I wonder if it could be helpful and to have not just calls individually with you, but actually maybe have two couples, like two of you on a call. Because a lot of times there's certain things, I don't know, I'm going to leave it up to you. If you want to have an individual call, but there might be some advantage to you to have, we do it Zoom instead of on telephone, and you actually are hearing what other people are interacting over, and a lot of it is similar and the principles come out. So anybody have a response to that about whether you want to try and pair up to do some calls? Do you think that could be helpful?
I think it'd be great if we did a barbecue.
That's what I was like maybe after this, sometime during summer, I was talking also about maybe say well, maybe I could do it where we watch the kids in the backyard while some of the other families do their usual, for 3 or 4 hours where we get
Yeah.
with you, and afterwards we just go there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's up
Well,
to
we
you.
had done that, we did have, we had a couple of parties here, with the last group, and I know, oh, this is Sarah too, she's the other group, she graduated from this one, and she's in the formations group. So, yes, this group, anybody who wants to pick up something on hospitality, as far as getting everybody together and getting together with families, that would be great. And if you wanna try and combine it with, with parenting, whatever, I don't know, I'm up for whatever suggestions you wanna make. But I think, I heard even somebody go, now what's your name again? I thought, we're half the time, we're like on our 4th time here. And I so want you guys to be a tribe, to help each other, and I know you want the same thing, that having the ability to have friends where you feel comfortable exchanging childcare, where you can talk through a principal and, just call up and go, okay, so talk me through, I did this redo, it went really bad, help me figure out what's the blind spot, what am I doing? You guys are a tremendous gift to each other going through this, so I hope you just call each other up and say, come on over for dinner, come on, let's go to a park and hang out as a family or something, so you really bond together. That sounds good.
So going back to what you were asking,
Yeah.
like how would the pairs be? Selected. If
Yeah, probably. You all
Some
pretty
pairs.
much have kids in the same age range. Everybody's, I think 4.5 or something, right? And down 4 and down, right?
Except for us, we have one older one.
Yeah, one older one. So there's a lot of common things. Bedtime, meal times, exiting time in the cars, how you handle rebellion, how you handle kids clashing, all of that you actually could learn from each other too, but we don't have to.
I'm open to it.
Can we use, say, if we do, say, after our parents' foundation,
Uh-huh.
let's just go in the back to do barbecue or something like that?
Sure.
Some stuff in the barbecue.
Yeah.
Put yourself on.
I think we ought to.
We can eat it apart.
I'm gonna leave it a call.
Yeah.
That's not for sure.
They're saying they're not